Okay, on your test, you are going to be asked to solve a problem using quadratic formula and have to show all of your work. So we want to show an example of that and have you guys practice it in the review. So we're going to solve x squared plus 2x minus 4 equals 0 using the quadratic formula. So your math quill button right over here is going to be very helpful in writing this. And if you watch this entire video, you'll see it's really not difficult to use. So our equation's already set equal to 0. A is 1, B is 2, C is -4, and we can start to plug everything in. So I'm going to go to Math Quill. And I know that the quadratic formula has division in it. So what I have to make sure that I do is that I put my entire numerator in parentheses. Okay, so we have opposite of B, which would be -2, plus or minus the square root of b squared. You can either type in 2 squared or you can just evaluate that. 2 squared would be 4 minus the 4 that is in the problem times a, which is 1, times c, which is -4. And that's my entire numerator. So all I have to do now is go on the outside of that parenthesis and do a slash, and it automatically turns it into a fraction. And you can show me 2 times a, or in this case, a is 1. You can delete the parentheses afterwards if you really want to, but you don't need to, so I would just leave them in there. And we're going to hit done. And again, it's going to show up in here as a bunch of tech jargon, but once you submit it, your teacher will be able to see it just fine. Okay, so we've plugged this in. So this is, again, where having this written down on paper beforehand is probably really helpful when showing your work. Okay, so the next step would be we're going to work on simplifying under that radical. So I still need the numerator in parentheses. We had -2 plus or minus the square root. B squared was 4. Then we had -4 times 1 times -4. Well, that would turn into a positive 16. And then I'm going to get my cursor outside those parentheses and do divided by, well, 2a, 2 times 1 was just 2. And I'm going to hit done. Then hit enter for the next line. Go back to Math Quill. So now I will be working on, let's simplify under that radical. So that leaves me 4 plus 16 is 20 all over 2. And at this point, the next step is going to be to break down that square root of 20. So we would still need to be in parentheses, -2 plus or minus. And if you break down the square root of 20, the perfect square that goes into 20 is 4. So you have a couple of options. You can type in the square root of 4 times the square root of 5 all over 2. And then if you would want to do the next step after that, you can. Or some of you guys are strong enough in this skill that you can say, well, the square root of 4 is just 2. So this would break into 2 square root of 5 because you did have square root of 4 times square root of 5. Either way is fine. Okay, it's really up to you. We're still divided by 2. Okay, we are almost done. We have one more step because this 2 in the denominator will divide everything not under the square root. So the 2 in the denominator is going to divide the -2 out front, and it's going to divide the 2 in front of the radical. So one last step, back to Math Quill. I don't need a parenthesis anymore because my division is going to cancel out essentially. -2 divided by 2 is -1, plus or minus 2 divided by 2 is 1, radical 5. And then this 1 right here in front of the radical, you have a choice. You can write it in there. There's nothing wrong with it. Or you can get rid of it because the 1 is implied. But this would be our final answer. We can hit done. And at that point, you would you can go on to the next problem and we would see all of the work shown there.